In this movie, I'll introduce you to the live paint feature. And so the idea here, we're going to keep it simple at first, is that we want to create a Venn diagram. For example, the intersection of Illustrator and Photoshop is graphic art. And so far, inside of this illustration, I've created the interaction between these circles using a blend mode. So if I grab the cyan circle, for example, with my black arrow tool and drag it away, then I drag the magenta circle away, you can see that I've got just 3 circles in all on this layer. However, thanks to the fact that the circles are set to the multiply blend mode, they end up interacting with each other when set on top of each other. So I'll go ahead and press Control Z a couple of times. That would be Command Z a couple of times on the Mac in order to put those circles back in place. Now, blend modes are awesome, which is why I devote an entire chapter to them in my advanced course. But this isn't really the effect I want. I want a better looking green, I want a darker blue, I want a red that has more contrast, and I want this central area to be white, not gray. And there's no blend mode that's going to give me that effect. I also want the strokes inside of the intersecting areas to be thinner, as in the case of this final version of the illustration here. And you can only achieve that degree of precision when you're working with live paint. So let's see how it works. I'll go ahead and switch back to the document called VennDiagram.ai. And I'm going to turn off the multiply layer and turn on the normal layer. So there are those exact same 3 circles set to the normal blend mode. And as a result, there's no interaction between them. Now we want to select the 3 circles on the normal layer. And you can do that by Alt-clicking, or on a Mac, Option-clicking on the normal layer here inside the Layers panel. Now to establish a live paint object, you use the live paint bucket. And it's located down here. Go to the Shape Builder tool in the second half of the toolbox. Click and hold on it, and select the live paint bucket from the flyout menu. You also have a keyboard shortcut, notice that, of K. Now at this point, you may or may not see a trio of swatches above your live paint bucket cursor. If so, that's a good thing, but let me show you a situation in which that won't happen. If you're working with a color that is not defined by a swatch, for example, if I switch over to the color panel and I change any one of these values, I'll go ahead and increase the Y value, for example, to 100%. Then I'm just going to see 1 swatch above my cursor, not 3. You really want to be able to see those 3 swatches because they're going to allow you to switch between the colors that you want to use in order to color your artwork. So the first thing I recommend you do is go ahead and establish a series of swatches up here in the swatches panel. So define all the colors that you're going to work with. Even if later you're going to change your mind, that's okay. And then go ahead and click on any one of those colors to make it active. And this assumes, by the way, that the fill is active, as it is for me. If your fill is not active, then you'd go to the first swatch up here in the control panel and select, again, any one of these swatches in this first row. All right, now I'll press the Escape key, and you can see I'm now poised to go ahead and fill some portion of this artwork with orange because that's the last color I selected. You'll also notice that even though I changed the fill to orange, that did not affect the selected shapes, and that's because I'm working with my live paint bucket. When this tool is selected, you don't actually assign a color until you click with the tool. All right, I'm going to advance to another swatch, and you do this by pressing the right arrow key. So the right arrow key is going to take you forward through the swatches. The left arrow key is going to take you backward through the swatches. The central swatch is the one that's active. I want this dark shade of red to be active, and then I'll click inside this intersecting area right here in order to fill it with that red. Now I'll go over to this design area and press the right arrow key in order to advance to green, and I'll click right there. And then I'll go up to the graphic art area, press the right arrow key to advance to the dark blue, and click at that location. And finally, I'll move my cursor into the My Brain area, and I'll press the left arrow key several times until I go back to white, and I'll click in that region in order to fill it. Now, I want you to notice something that's going on here. Now, of course, that still leaves the strokes up for grabs, but we'll take care of that in the next movie. In the meantime, I want you to see what's going on here. I'll twirl open the normal layer, and you can see I've now got a live paint object. And I had that live paint object the second I clicked with the live paint bucket tool. If you twirl open that live paint object, then you'll see those original circles, which I named in advance, cyan, magenta, and orange. Now, they're still independent shapes. For example, I could go ahead and meatball the cyan shape. In order to select it, you won't get that little double circle target icon. You'll see the target around a live paint object Not sure why that is, but only the cyan circle is now selected, as you can see out here in the document window. So if I press the V key in order to switch back to my black arrow tool, and I drag this circle around, notice that Illustrator goes ahead and updates the object on the fly. So you go ahead and keep those dynamic color interactions, which is absolutely an amazing thing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press Control Z or Command Z on the Mac in order to undo that move, and then I'll click off the object to deselect it. Hopefully that gives you a sense of how the Live Paint feature works and how you fill intersecting areas using the Live Paint Bucket tool. In the next movie, I'll show you how to modify the intersecting strokes.